I can see clearly now with my screen share. Happy New Year and welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone, and we just finished a season when a lot of people are exchanging gifts, and that's passed a little bit. And Tanium Converge is even a little bit farther behind that. But we have a gift for you today. You have been asking for this for so long. As long as I've been at Tanium, I can remember people asking for this capability that we're getting to show you today. What is it? We're going to show you screen sharing in the console of Tanium. You heard that right. Yes, finally, Tanium is bringing you the ability to share screen with remote users. So why are we doing this now? Well, Tanium Converge, we released a lot of things, and we are going to be unpacking some of those things here, quite literally, doing some unboxing videos with some demos for you coming up over the next month or two, trying to get caught up for all the new things Tanium put in your toy box to play with. So today, joining me on the show is James Bly. I just think that's the coolest name I've ever heard, James Bly. James, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm glad to be here, and I'm an engineer that works with our pre-sales teams. Customers are evaluating Tanium, understanding its fit in their organization, and want to experience some of the new things that we're doing. That's where I step in.
Thanks so much for coming on the show today to do this demo for us. Now, the first thing I have to ask is, how long have people been asking for this remote screen sharing ability?
Yeah, it's interesting. It predates my joining the organization, right? It's a really interesting conversation in that, we've kind of pushed that boundary in how organizations can reach their assets and experience, their IT estate and gather information. And everybody always said, we love this. We can execute actions, do all these things, but we want to get on the endpoint itself. We want to actually experience that desktop and, enable our RMM, remote management operations, and enable our help desks and, kind of centralize that operation, take advantage of what Tanium does. So this is pretty exciting for us to release.
On this show, we talk about some things that are just in early trials, or maybe it's public. So where do we stand with this? Is this something people can use today, or are they going to have to wait a little bit longer to get it?
Yeah, so this is available today for our cloud deployed customers, organizations that use Tanium Cloud as the infrastructure to host their operation. And for the on-premise customers, we are very close to having this available for them as well.
Oh, that is great news. Well, you've asked for it, folks watching the show. We're delivering. So James, talk a little bit about what we built. This is a tricky problem to solve, and hence it's why it took a little while for us to finally get around to building this. So how did we solve the problem?
Well, it's true. You don't casually create a screen sharing interface. There's so many aspects to the performance and the security and, thought that has to go into how customers are going to use it and how they're going to experience it. And I think that's one of the advantages in that we partnered with ScreenMeet in this. That organization has dedicated themselves to enabling that remote access. And the beauty of it is that they did so in a way that seamlessly integrates with the way that Tanium connects to the endpoints. So we were able to take advantage of our greatest strengths in our reach, our accessibility to these devices, and combine it with their technology, which is a really well thought out remote screen sharing experience.
So I'm going to ask next then. So we built out this partnership with ScreenMeet so people can have this remote control experience. What are the bounds of that? Okay, normally we talk about Windows, Mac, Linux, Solaris, AIX. I don't think anybody's going to do this on AIX, but what are we supporting exactly as far as the remote clients are concerned?
Yeah, so ScreenMeet has a pretty extensive support for endpoints. We're focused today on Windows and Mac experiences, and there's initiatives in place to expand that within the Tanium landscape. So without going into a lot of how they handle like iPads and things like that, they do have that ability. Our focus is on those two use cases. I kind of brought that up in the beginning, the remote management use case, which is your, people doing service and work on endpoints, investigations, incident response. And then of course you've got your help desk. And that was what the feedback we received from a lot of our customers was, we've got end users, they're using Macs, they're using Windows, and we need to be able to get on those devices and help them with their issues, solve those issues efficiently. So that's been our initial release for the solution.
Now, you dropped a little nugget there as well, because classically in my ops background of IT, I've always thought about this as an ops tool. But you mentioned, threat response, incident response type scenarios as well. I can see where this would be handy to see what's maybe there's some odd behavior that's a security issue on a user's machine as well. I guess I never really thought of it as a security tool, also.
At the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same things with computers, and we need good information to help us make key decisions. So yeah, remote access absolutely helps security teams. The nice thing about Tanium is all of the access into this is based on Tanium's role-based access control and the Tanium infrastructure itself. So as long as people have access to that, they can use it for the use case that applies to their job and their particular role. And that is one very valid use case. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that RBAC really takes it to another level. So maybe I've got ability to query machines in the Tanium console, but that doesn't mean I can take control of those machines unless I've been granted the rights to do that. Now that brings me to the next question. Then I'm hearing people out there asking already. Now wait a minute, if we had trouble getting Tanium approved in some business units because they thought we were going to take over their machine, and now we literally can take over their machine. So what kind of audit trail or breadcrumb trail happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, I can talk about that in the context of the demo as well, but every action that you're taking on these devices is part of an audit log. There's a number of features that can be enabled, like session recording and privacy curtains and things like that, that can be controlled based upon policy. The activities that you take are going to be logged on those endpoints, whether it's an attended session, so the user is on the endpoint and they've actually approved your connection into their device, or an unattended session, a user that's been granted the rights to do an unattended session to a server or workstation where nobody's logged on. There's still an audit log that's contained within the integration between Tanium and the ScreenMeet cloud platforms.
So RBAC and auditing, I mean, that really covers most of the bases. So I'm excited to see it. I'd really like to see what we've got here.
Yeah, I'm excited to share it with you. This has been a great addition to the solution, and I'm going to actually start off here in single endpoint view. There's a couple ways to get into a remote session with a device, and if anybody hasn't seen single endpoint view, fantastic way to get an overall view of an individual device. Obviously, screen sharing is an individual experience with that machine. This allows you to create tabs and build views into the system's compliance status, security controls, patch status, just the whole breadth of what Tanium can offer. Much like we mentioned earlier on RBAC, your RBAC is going to control what information appears for you here. But going in here, this is where you will find this open screen share option. So when I click on that, I am going to get this little prompt asking whether I want to prompt the user for permission. I have the right to do an unattended session, meaning I can connect to a machine without any authorization. Obviously, there's a window that pops up so people will know that I'm on the machine, but I can check that or uncheck that. In this case, I'm going to check this, and you'll have a chance here to see the result of doing so, what an attended session looks like. So the idea here is that the end user's on the machine, they've requested support, and you want them to be part of this session. Now, in the background, what's happening here is all of the session application, the environment necessary for is being copied down to the endpoint and prepared and run and connecting back to the ScreenMeet cloud. And on the endpoint, the user is being prompted here requesting their authorization for your permission to get into the session. Now, I'm going to click allow on that, and now it's going to open that connection right back through this platform and appear here in my browser. Everything that I need, I now have access to. As I said, there's a screen that lets them know that I'm connected to their machine. I'm going to go and request remote control, and I'm going to approve that on the other end. And now I can get in here and work on this machine. All the things that you would normally do in this situation, if you needed access task manager, you can do that. Of course, one of the really great things that we've done in this integration is you have access to tooling that makes it easier to do these things. A screen session can be very prohibitive from a network bandwidth perspective. Sometimes people are on slow connections. I will note that we do have the ability to tune the stream performance to deal with those potential issues. But we also enable a lot of the tooling to happen more automatically through the interface. So you can go in here if you want to access Task Manager. With a simple click, you can pull that up, or access installed programs on that device. With just a click on that, you can see all the installed programs and features and access that information. It handles the UAC prompts if you need an admin PowerShell session. Of course, you're supporting a remote user, and many remote users can be a little bit, touchy about changes to their operating environment. They have the way that they do their work, so you may not want to influence that, and you may want to go in here and you can create a virtual desktop where you can go and do your work. So now you can go in here and you can access system features without impacting the windows that they have open already. Many of the common things you need: Windows settings, device manager, common locations on the file system, if you need to access the user's home folder or program data, all of that information is here at a point and click. If you
Man,
need to run an
this is amazing. This is I just have to pause right here.
No, no, go.
This is an amazing experience. I just cuz it's been a minute since I was in that type of a role where I was remoting people's machines, and so to see how far this has come with a remote management experience, all these shortcuts are handy right in there. This is just blows me away.
There's a lot of challenges that were introduced as the operating system evolved. And the many things that you need to access and the ways that you do things, the complexity of it. So it necessitated adding additional tooling, right? So I was kind of getting into some of those functions to run things. One thing I would add here: if there's something that you do in your organization that's very unique, dealing with resolving common user issues, browser cache issues, email client configurations, gathering data for, log, analysis, triage, you can integrate custom tooling. And with a simple click, you can have it execute programs that you need to run and not simply the ones that we have defined for you. So the agent itself is just the Tanium agent. All of the executables for ScreenMeet are maintained within Tanium. That's all copied down to the desktop and managed as part of the Tanium service.
Nice.
Yep. So when if you think about, you close the actual session, we remain resident on that because we're managing that device, but there's no screen sharing agent. There's no constant session established back to a server. All of these things are managed within Tanium. Once you close that session, there's no open ports on that system that would expand the attack surface on that device, that would increase your security risk profile. It is all contained within Tanium. It's a client connection, an outbound connection to a cloud-based service that facilitates all of this. So very secure, very performant, doesn't leave around things that are going to consume resources on the user's endpoint after you've done your connection. We do also facilitate a lot of activities that connect your endpoint to their endpoint. So things, for example, taking copy and paste, enabling the clipboard, right? Or downloading screenshots to attach to a case or do triage. We also facilitate bidirectional file transfers, so the ability to copy data down to it, to run a script maybe that you have to run on it, or to pull log data off of it and do that for triage. We also enable agents to facilitate multiple connections. So if you have to escalate this and allow somebody else in, and you need to invite somebody in to help continue to work on that or hand off to another agent, that can be easily facilitated by inviting them into the session or allowing them to join the session right through the Tanium console, which they can do. The idea here is that once you're done and you leave that session, you have the option to leave that session open so they can continue to do that work after you've completely disconnected from it. Or if you're done with that work, you can click on close session. And what's going to happen now is that Tanium is going to shut down that session on the end user's side and clean up all the executable and shut everything down. The only thing that remains is that Tanium management control that we've had from the very beginning.
Wow. And so you can grab screenshots, you can transfer log files and stuff back and forth. That is just like the ultimate Swiss Army knife toolkit for remote troubleshooting. Wow.
Yeah. Earlier we mentioned, you talked about why we went through this and what we built. And that's why I said, ScreenMeet was very thoughtful in how they put together their side of this equation. And it just seamlessly integrates with Tanium. It allows us to do all of the user management, role-based access, establishing of the session, tear down of the session, while they, on the other hand, are doing all the things they do really well: the tooling, the streamlined functionality, transferring of data, just all the great things that your agents, supporting your users are going to need to be efficient in their work.
The very next question I'm going to have to ask, I can hear people wondering, like, okay, I've got Tanium. What else do I need to make this work?
Tanium and ScreenMeet. That's really all it is, right?
Okay.
There's nothing special on top of that that goes into this. For all the platforms that we support, different editions of Windows, um, there's really nothing special that you have to add to that mix. There's no additional security controls. There's no additional ports that need to be opened, right? Everything takes place over the internet.
No,
That's
wait a
one of the
minute. I,
advantages.
I got to double check right there. So you're telling me that we're going to do remote control with remote machines and I don't have to open any more ports?
It's an outbound client connection. As long as you have access to the internet, just like every browsing experience that you have out there, right? We have the traditional Tanium 17474 that is
Mm-hmm.
used for our day-to-day communication. And then we have the connection out to the ScreenMeet cloud. Everything is client-based, right? The server services are all hosted on the internet, so there's no complexity for the end user to experience. As long as we can reach that device, it's connected to the internet. That's a Tanium's advantage. It's keeping track of devices, be able to reach them wherever they are. If it's a coffee shop in Honolulu, a hotel lobby in Paris, or a home office in Omaha, right? If we can reach it and it can get to the internet, we can control it, we can manage it, we can now connect to the desktop.
That's just beautiful, man. So you said this is already available. I don't need any other ports. So I guess do I have to buy something else? What's involved with licensing? I think I'm gonna guess I probably need to pay something to ScreenMeet. How does that work?
That's right. Now, as an engineer, I always joke that Shift 4 is broken on my keyboard. From a licensing perspective, I encourage everybody to reach out to your sales teams, right? I'll be part of that or one of my peers, and we can kind of lay that out. But the way it's licensed is for your Tanium estate. So it would be an add-on license on top of your already existing Tanium investment for the devices that you have managed under Tanium.
What's been the initial response that you've heard from customers so far who've gotten to try this?
It's been very positive. It's been a lot of inquiries. It's been a lot of feedback on the way that they do their day to day. I think that's one of the more interesting things is to hear about the nuances of how people run their support operations, how they're supporting their users, training and enablement, things along those lines. We've had some really great conversations about how this can be integrated. I think it has opened up Tanium as a platform more for those users. Because like I mentioned, that single endpoint view, the moment you go in there, there's so much information that's immediately available about how that endpoint is running, the performance of the device, the applications are installed, who's using it, all of the details that they actually can benefit from when they're in their support sessions. So I think that it's been eye-opening for not only our customers to see how much more they can do, but for us to see how they're doing it. And that's the excitement here at Tanium is, oh hey, customer says, I'm doing this. We turn around and go, well, we can do that. And suddenly, in a matter of a week, you've got a whole new thing sitting out there that nobody had ever dreamed of before. That's why it's so exciting to add this kind of thing into Tanium. And the feedback has been really positive in my experience.
Yeah, I know a lot of shops, level 2, level 3 support already have Tanium console access. So this is just one more RBAC permission that would allow them to manage those machines. And if you're a Tanium customer and L2, L3 doesn't have Tanium access, maybe this is a good business case to give them that access so it can take it to the next level for making them more efficient as well. So, James, we've got a minute or two left here. So I'm curious, and I know you don't work for the product team, but can you talk a little bit about, where we would like to see this go? Maybe what's coming, and this is the first release. What do we have in mind going forward?
So yeah, there's a roadmap for this, right? I think one of the things getting the most attention right now is enabling our on-prem customers. And that's not a technology limitation. The technology is all ready to go. It's just the back-end infrastructure to support it, as I understand. So they're pretty close to having that all worked out. And I think that's one of the biggest priorities. Then you've got the other platform support is another area. We hear customers asking for more support for different languages, kind of localization and what different countries are doing. So far, we've actually had really good success in that regard, supporting languages and things that you might run into. So they've been growing quickly since the initial release of this, and it's really fresh, still fresh out of the gate, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, fresh out of the gate. So that what we would really like you to do, folks, is to go kick the tires on this. Talk to your account team and see what it takes for you to get your hands on it. So, James, anything else you want to drop in here before we wrap up?
I appreciate the chance to share this with everybody. Like we were saying, reach out to us because that feedback is just incredibly valuable. Tanium is a platform that's very dynamic and very adaptable, and that we need that customer feedback to adapt and move in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to the conversations this might generate, and I appreciate the time.
James, thank you so much for showing us this, getting to do the big reveal, the unwrapping the gift here for us on this show. We bring this to you every time, folks. You've asked for it. Here it is. We're so grateful that we can enable this use case for you to make you more efficient and effective in how you're out there supporting the world and making everything go around the world. So thank you. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Like James said, we also have down in the show notes, there's some links for you. And now at the time we're recording this, we don't quite have the community post or the docs page ready yet. However, those will be dropping soon, but we do have a link for you to some of the other announcements around the capabilities that you can use to discuss with your leadership about getting this brought into your company to see how it can help you and be more effective. So check those links out in the show notes below. So thanks again for joining us today on Tanium Tech Talks. And until next time, Go-Tanium.